Welcome to the second part of our mini lecture on persuasive speaking. In the first part of our lecture, we discussed the two types of persuasive speaking, dispositional and actuation, along with the three types of audiences, agreed, undecided, and opposed. In this part of the lecture, we'll discuss the different types of thesis statements used in a persuasive speech and the various ways that we organize our main points. In a persuasive speech, the thesis is called a claim. And there are three types of thesis statements in a persuasive speech: claims of fact, claims of value, and claims of policy. Claims of fact seek agreements about beliefs. They can be stated in the past, the present, the future, or causally. Now, don't get hung up on the name fact. They are not necessarily factual, rather, they are statements stated as fact. These are things that can be argued for or against. They are a claim. We are claiming something and then arguing for it. For example, extraterrestrials exist in the universe. This is a statement that we can argue for or against. Hydrogen fuel technology will end our dependence on foreign oil. So these are statements of or claims of fact, and they are the basis for dispositional types of speeches. Claims of value are also used in dispositional argumentative speeches, and they are arguing judgments of worth. And you'll see keywords in there such as moral, immoral, right, wrong, just, unjust. So we are arguing judgments of worth. They're, in essence, morality arguments. Teaching evolution in schools is wrong. Faith-based initiatives or solutions to poverty are better than government handouts. So we're arguing something that is right or wrong, good or bad. Superman is a better American than Batman. Both claims of fact and value, as I mentioned, are used in dispositional speeches. And our goal is trying to influence the audience's disposition on this particular topic. In case you're having difficulty in following along with this, I forgot to mention, you might want to download the handout on persuasive speaking. And there's a nifty chart there that breaks all these categories down into the types of persuasive speeches, the types of claims, the types of audiences, and the patterns of organization. So if you're having difficulty, you might want to replay this and follow along with the persuasive handout available on D2L. Shifting gears from claims of fact and value, which are both dispositional type of speeches, we're going to move towards claims of policy. Now, claims of policy, like other actuation speeches, are there to try to seek change, to seek action. You're trying to motivate your audience to do something. And the feature of these are action words. Think of should, must, need to, ought to. You're telling the audience to do something. The legal drinking age should be raised to 25. Key West must find a way to save the coral reef. Now, the goal here again is to motivate your audience towards some action. Now we have a better idea of the types of claims that we use to set up our speeches. We need to talk about the ways that we're going to organize our main points during the speeches. And just as there are appropriate claims for different types of speeches, there are appropriate patterns of organization that accompany dispositional speeches as well as actuation speeches. So the first 6 patterns of organization that I'm going to briefly go over deal with dispositional persuasive speeches, and they are topical, causal, problem no solution, refutative, comparative advantage, and invitational patterns of organization. Now, the first 3 patterns that I'm going to discuss work best with an undecided audience. The topical pattern is categorical. You use it when there's no obvious relationship. For instance, I bought my saw because of its excellent resale value, a high safety rating, and great gas mileage. Now, these things have no particular relationship except for the topic of why I purchased my saw. Causal, that is, we think of this as cause-effect or effect-cause. It can be stated, for example, because of unhealthy eating habits and lack of exercise, America will be dealing with the devastating effects of obesity for years to come. And so we're stating that here's the cause and this is the effect. And we could reverse that. We could talk about the effects and then the causes. So causal or cause-effect is another pattern that is used with an undecided audience. A refutative pattern of organization It involves refuting your opponent's argument, and it's a four-step process. Structurally, it works with what we call two-sided argument. That is, we're acknowledging the opposing audiences or the opposing speakers' point of view in our argument. So refutative involves four steps. You state the opposing argument, you state the evidence for the opposing argument, you discuss why that argument is flawed, and why your solution is better. Maybe you have my opponent has a plan for health care. He said his plan is right for America, stating that it provides the best coverage at the cheapest cost. My opponent's plan is flawed. The coverage under this plan has serious gaps, and many Americans will have reduced or no coverage at all. Additionally, it will be of no savings to the American people. My plan is better for America. It keeps the best part of our current plan and fills in the gaps in coverages and costs. So as I say, the refutative plan involves two-sided argument where we acknowledge the opposing side's point of view, and then we state why it's flawed, and we give evidence as to why our plan is better. Now, the next three patterns of organization, while still dispositional, tend to work best with opposing audiences, and these are comparative advantage, problem solution, and invitational. Now, comparative advantage you're all familiar with. It's comparing two things side by side, whatever they may be, Chevy and Ford or Toyota and Honda, and in the end, through presenting good evidence, you decide which one is better. Inevitably, one is better. Problem solution spends the entirety of the speech exploring the depth of the problem. Maybe we're dealing with something like ADD drugs in college. And there is a real problem with the abuse of ADD drugs in college, but maybe your audience doesn't understand what the depth of the problem is. So you're spending the entirety of your speech exploring the depth of the problem or the scope of the problem. Now, invitational patterns of organization work best when there's an extremely opposed or hostile audience. They invite the audience to see your point of view. If you refer back to the speech Tiffany Meat Free and Me is an excellent chance where she's inviting her parents to see why she chose to adopt a vegetarian lifestyle. So dispositional patterns of organization, these are the six of them that we've discussed. I want to shift gears towards actuation speaking and the patterns that are appropriate for that. Now, these are basically all variations on the theme of problem solution. That is, they're going to be a 2 to 3 point speech where they're going to start with a claim of policy, and we're all going to set them up in terms of one point is going to deal with the problem and the other is going to deal with the solution. Or we have another one that's called problem cause solution. And the first point is dealing with the problem, the second point is dealing with the causes, and the third point is dealing with the solution. The key with these types of speeches is its actuation. You're trying to motivate your audience to take some action. So in the solution phase, you want to propose a solution that the audience can get involved in. Maybe it's lack of computers on campus, and you want to discuss the problem associated with computers on campus and some potential solutions, but more importantly, what can you do to get involved to help solve this problem? And it might involve writing a letter to the president, or signing a petition, or going to a Facebook page, something the audience can realistically do to participate in this type of speech. Well, today we have talked a bit about the way that we phrase our thesis or the claim, as well as the patterns of organization appropriate for persuasive speeches. Next time we will talk about some persuasive speech strategies, and we will see you then.